Good evening, White Plains. Today has been a very busy day. Much has happened. So I think we'll start off with what's been going on in White Plains today. As you know, the last two nights I spoke about infrastructure, but I've been talking about it for months, while my opponent said I was wrong, that we don't have any issues with infrastructure. Um, and clearly we do. We had that collapse on Hale Avenue, that partial collapse of that garage. They relocated those nurses who parked there to Galleria West Garage. Well, the other day we walked the Galleria Garage, and we've been doing that. It's been ongoing, but we actually walked it. We did a video. We showed the public what was wrong in that garage. Well, evidently they did a engineering inspection there, and the garage has been now condemned. When I got word that the garage was condemned, I drove over there and the police were already blocking off entrance to there. So now the nurses won't be able to park there. But more importantly, it goes from notices that these garages have been the city garages have been inspected annually to condemned. Obviously, that just doesn't happen. I've been warning about this. It's obvious what was going on in much of our city infrastructure, if not most. And here we go. It's been denied over and over again that this was going on, and it's clear, absolutely clear now. And this is just the tip of the iceberg. This is frightening what's going on. So, in fact, news media was there tonight, which I'm sure you'll see. Now they have to relocate the nurses again. We're going to run out of parking structures as they move through all of them. I can tell you that much. Also, the police use that garage. So now they have to relocate. You also have, the mobile command unit has been in there also, so that has to relocate. This shakes things up a lot. My problem is that I had been bringing this forward and I was ridiculed. And now this should prove that I've been absolutely correct. And I'm telling you now, this is the tip of the iceberg. Watch my video that we put out the other night about that garage that's in question. Hamilton, Maine garage. We also went to the library garage, which I was so horrified by that I said, you know what? Let's not even put out a video on this. Let's go live right now. I want the people to see what is happening. I think I brought it up even last night that you can't leave these things, you can't leave them there without maintaining them. Once the cars go in and the salt penetrates the slab, it gets to the steel, and now it'll start to rot the steel every time it gets wet. The steel will start to expand at a rapid rate and bust out the concrete. You can all recognize that now. When you go into the garage, you'll see pieces of concrete that have fallen. That's from the steel expanding as it weakens. You'll also see rust marks. You'll see that reddish orange rust marks all over the ceilings. That's an indicator of that. Once that happens and the chlorides get into the steel, what you want to do is to just extend it a little longer. It should have never have happened, but you want to seal them. You got to really seal them manually at that point to keep the water from activating it and causing a problem. None of that's been done. This didn't happen overnight. It's at many of the garages. And I mean, just even you can look at the video I did and the pictures I posted of the city center staircase. That didn't happen overnight. They saw it separating and nobody did anything about it. You have to ask yourself, if they left something so visible, they left it to deteriorate, what about other areas? I've been getting calls all day on this. And I'm sure you've heard this, is that people are saying to just file a permit on a deck that's 2 feet off the ground, you need engineering reports, you got to jump through hoops. Everybody knows that. But if you have a garage with tons of steel and concrete and you have public safety, serious public safety issues, how hypocritical is it? We have to look at our own house and we have to do it now. When I said the past 2 nights, the city's at an inflection point, we are. This is exactly why I decided to run. I am not, I'll say it again, a career politician. I am an engineer at heart. When I see a problem and I know solutions, I have to get it done. And that's why I'm running. I saw the city that I love decaying rapidly. And all you have to do is go and look. I'll take anybody on a tour. So this is really, really serious. You'll see it. I think Tom Roach did a press conference, and now my opponent's posting things that we have to take this seriously. What happened when I've been saying it throughout the campaign and I was ridiculed? You know, there's no way anybody can deny that. There's a record of this, public record of this. So truly, this is a very, very critical election. And people have to go vote. Your vote matters. This should be an indication of how much your vote matters. When you don't get involved and you allow these things to happen, this is what happens. Now, when these all have to be assessed and repaired, this is a major, major undertaking. But there's no doubt it has to begin right now, immediately. So that's the big story of the day, and it is huge. Because they inspect one garage and immediately it's condemned. What happens when they go to the next one and possibly the next one? Just go into the garages and look. So very, very serious. I don't want to, this is so serious. I know I'm repeating myself, but that's how dangerous and how concerned I am with the safety of the public. This has to be addressed now. Moving on to a few other things. I mean, it comes to everything. I was at the train station today. I was talking to the people there. One gentleman came to me. He said, we've been asking for bird netting that doesn't cost much at all because we have to walk through the sidewalks are covered with bird waste and we have to walk through it every day. That is so unsanitary. I don't understand why something can't be done. And what he was told when he spoke to people in our government, and in fact, one gentleman said he spoke to my opponent when he was there handing out palm cards. He was told that that's MTA's problem. Well, something has to be done. I don't care. This is for our residents. That train station, our people go to it. So if you can't pressure MTA, then we figure out a way how we get it done. Bird netting's not expensive. We take care of the problem. Goes to the point, they told me many things, the people there. One gentleman told me he's been complaining about a handicap ramp. There's a big hole. And he has to run out there and help people in wheelchairs get over the hole. And again, when he brought it to my opponent's, actually, I want to be clear. I don't know if he brought that one to my opponent's attention. But he was told, we don't have time for that. The elevator there, one of the elevators has been broken for 2 months. There was a woman accosted in the stairway, he informed me, and the bulb is out, so it's very dark. He's been asking, he didn't tell me exactly how long. He said, but that bulb's been out for a very, very long time. He brought it to the city's attention and to the MTA's attention. It's in the parking garage, and he was told each one is saying it's somebody else's fault. He said it's a light bulb. A light bulb. We have to start getting things fixed and maintained. It starts with that, and then you have falling parking garages. That's how it happens. This is just an example. At the White Plains CNA forum, my exact words in my opening statement was White Plains is at a crossroads. The infrastructure is crumbling. And that is what my opponent had he took great exception to. He said that is not true. And he asked me to name one instance of that. And I named many. So this is serious. So a couple of other things I've heard. There was, I saw a little bit on the internet, and I'm very concerned. I'd like to find out some more information, but I heard a young girl was walking with her mother, I believe, and she was attacked by 2 pit bulls, and that it was so bad, the police had to drive the ambulance while the EMTs were working on her in the back. I want to find out how she's doing. That is horrifying to me. And I want to find out what's going on with that. That's just appalling. And I have nothing against dogs. Just so you know, I am a dog lover. I have had dogs all my life, and I absolutely love pets. I've had various pets. So it's nothing against dogs. But if they're trained, I don't know if they were trained to attack. I'd like to find out more information. We have to have our people safe. And to have this happen in our city, it's horrifying, horrifying. And if anybody knows of any other incidents, I want to know about it, because I don't think we're being told everything that's going on. And that's another reason why I'm running transparency. So with that, I'm going to go to questions. So let's see. So Lisa writes, leadership is important. How on earth can this administration and council be trusted when the city is falling down around us? What would you do differently? Excellent question. Because I agree with you. How can we trust them? I mean, I know they can blame it on the mayor. They can blame it on department heads. But the council has responsibility. They don't pull in a garage and see the concrete falling and say, hey, what's going on? You don't have to be an engineer for that. You don't have to be an engineer to see the sidewalks busted up. You don't have to be an engineer to go back to the city center and see the staircase falling. So I agree. Now, what would I do differently? I worked for the city for 21 years, and I started in the building department. So yes, I recognize this stuff a lot easier. However, it still is available to the naked eye to anybody else. But what I would do differently is I worked with every department. So if we want to talk about building department, I worked in the building department, and I actually set up the first systems to track permits, inspections, licensing. I did all that. I wrote the software back then. I tracked all this. I tracked boiler permits, boiler inspections. I can even recite what the inspection schedule is. So if someone's not doing their job, I'm going to know about it. Certainly with building, I have a lot of experience. Obviously in IT, I do. But I have that experience in just about every department. I would say every department. I know what has to be done. And just having that experience, I do believe our city leaders in each department are well aware of that, and the jobs will be getting done. I'm putting my reputation on that. I guarantee it. Cleveland. Lenny, what is your favorite superhero? That's a tough one, because I've always been partial to Groot. So I don't know if you'd call him a superhero, but I think he's great. All right. That was good, because I'm getting very, very tense and upset tonight because I just came from the Galleria garage. And so I'm really, really uptight that this stuff should be happening in our city. So, Mamba Zerk, need to know who the engineering firm is that has the contract for annual inspections. Need to have an audit of the inspection dates and filings ASAP. Yeah, I believe a FOIL should be filed. I've been talking to people in various neighborhoods and groups, and we do need FOIL requests filed so that we can find out all the information surrounding this. Because I don't know, this is really, really suspect. A garage doesn't go from everything's okay to condemned in a year. This type of stuff just doesn't happen. Plus, everybody saw what was going on. So, were the inspections being done? I don't know. I don't know what a legitimate engineering firm would sign off on something like that and then assume all that liability. For what benefit would they do that? So, we really need FOIL requests on all this. Or vote for me and then everything will be visible. I guarantee that. Thank you. Magic Marcocos. As mayor, how will you make sure that people are doing their jobs? Just as I mentioned a few minutes ago, I know what is supposed to be done working for the city. I know the departments inside and out. Now, I do not want to imply that people aren't doing their jobs in the city. I know a lot of the people, and I know a lot of the people are upset that they feel like they're even held back, that they've reported problems. So I'm not criticizing anybody at the city as far as the employees. I know a good deal of them, and I applaud most of them are fantastic. I applaud them. The one thing this brings me up to something that I just want to make clear. I had mentioned something about highway doors being left open. Again, I applaud the people at Highway. I did not mean to besmirch their reputation. The fact is, I actually that should have included sanitation as well. It's not, I was trying to say, and I didn't do a great job of it, that those doors are manual, they have, doors there, regular doors. But if you're looking for something to save energy, you would not, if it's a private entity, they buy newer, high-speed automatic doors that are very safe. Places do this all over the place. I've seen tons of them. So that's the issue. It's not that they're not doing their job. They should be given the right tools to do their job. Why spend many millions on electric garbage trucks when you could have looked at the low-hanging fruit and given all the employees tools to be more efficient, save energy, and be more sustainable the proper way? So, good question. I know I digressed, but I didn't want to forget that. Matthew, what gel do you use to slick back? That's a good one. I can't give up all my secrets. So I'm going to avoid that one. Ellen, I know you are focused on this election. However, if not elected, would you consider running for the council seat that may be vacated by Jen Puja? So I am really focused on the election. You are right. I don't know what I'm going to do. And that's the truth. I haven't given it much thought. So it is something that is a possibility. But I could be much more effective as mayor. On the council, I think it's important that we get people on the council to keep the existing administration honest. I think that is important. One of the issues that we have is, I brought up about executive session the other day, and they were trying to imply that I was a conspiracy theorist, which is not the case. The fact is when you have single party rule and they're all lockstep, rubber stamping anything and everything, what happens is If you do call executive session and you start to abuse that, is any one of them going to call it out? Because they're the only ones that can. Nobody else knows what the executive session is and if it's legitimate. So a council seat is very important for that because they can object to it. So I'm not closing the door, but we'll see. Thank you for that. Chris. Speaking of birds' nests, have you had the opportunity to go to Ebersol Rink? They are needed as well as long lists. Yeah, I see. They are needed as well as long lists of them and other items, including floor mats. It is dangerous to walk around inside the ring, and it's only a matter of time before someone gets hurt. We are not talking millions to fix these problems, to make it safe for all the families that use it daily. So I used to spend a lot of time down there. I haven't as of late. Well, I was just actually on the outside of it and I saw some problems. So yes, this goes to the same problems we see at the train station garage. There are some minor issues like a light bulb. Just change the light bulb. Or if we did the normal maintenance, things don't get bad. Or do we wait for someone to get hurt and get a lawsuit so the city taxpayer has to, it costs the city taxpayer a lot more. I agree with you. You can't have little issues just keep building up. So thank you. So this is from Theo. Lenny, it happened down my street. Homeowner had 6 pit bulls and unfortunately all raised horribly. People had to move from their houses because of the rowdiness of the dogs. So we should have looked into that and not waited for a tragedy, quite frankly. So I don't have the details on it. I don't know if people reported it. I would suspect if they had 6 pit bulls and people moved away, there are complaints and there's got to be a record of it. We should foil that as well because these things should not be happening in our city. Ellen writes, were you aware there was a murder on Post Road this past Sunday? I was aware there was a murder. I believe you're referring to the person who was run over repeatedly. That my understanding, there was a fight that spilled out onto the street, and it was 4 against 1, and one of the 4 jumped in his SUV, and repeatedly ran over one of the people. That's what I heard. Again, this isn't official. And they, after in his going back and forth, he actually hit one of his friends and broke his leg or something like that. So I know they haven't caught anybody yet. That's what I've been told. So I'm waiting to find out more information. But I went down there. I spoke to the people in the area. Again, serious. A lot of this is not well publicized. Like I turn on the news, you don't hear about it. That a person was repeatedly run over in homicide, or what the security guards told me at the city center. They told me about vicious attacks. So we really have to have all this stuff transparent so we can make sure it doesn't keep happening. Unless it's transparent, it won't be addressed. Theo, how's it going, Lenny? If elected, any chance on looking into auditing the building department or maybe adding some more workforce to the building department? I brought this up last night. Most of our departments need more workforce. We have less people within departments that actually work. We became more and more top heavy. My opponent wants to hire a sustainability officer. He forced Tom Roach, he says, to hire a legislative aide. And he wants to hire a communications officer. All these jobs are supposed to be done by people who already work in leadership at City Hall. And we have in many departments, when someone retires, they bring them back as a consultant, and then they also hire someone to fill their spot. So we're very, very top heavy at this point. I certainly don't agree with that because some of these people, you might be able to hire 2 or 3 police officers or a couple of inspectors in the building department. We have to audit the full hierarchy of the city. and see what is going on, because we do not have enough people to do their job. People are waiting a long time, I understand, for inspections. I hear this all over the place. I'm walking the whole city, and anybody wants to meet me, talk to me, please reach out, because I like to know what's going on in every neighborhood. And that's what I'm hearing, that in each department, it's getting more and more difficult. And the workforce is telling me it's very difficult, that they have less people to do their job. And we're at the lowest, we're very low in our pay scale compared to other communities. So it's even difficult on that front. Suzanne writes, thank you for these live sessions and your transparency. Many years ago, the city center target parking level had these incredibly loud fans. Do you know why they aren't being used anymore? I am assuming they are exhaust fans, but I could be wrong. Given the state of the garage, I wonder if they are not working just due to lack of maintenance, like the escalators and sometimes the interior elevators. It could very well be. I would have to look into that. I will tell you that very often in garages, what I used to mandate in when I was in the building department is if CO levels, carbon monoxide levels would increase, you would have them put in fans, exhaust fans, with a CO detector. And they would go on automatically if CO started to build up in a garage. I don't know if that's what those are. I'd have to look into that. But if that's the case, they should be running, or maybe we're not building up CO, but is that being checked? That goes back to my other thing on the inspections, what's going on around the city, like the garages. I fear that everything that happened is happening now. I'm repeating myself, is just the tip of the iceberg. Lewis, is there any way we can change the zoning laws to minimize the excessive number of smoke marijuana shops on Mamaroneck Avenue? One, maybe two, but now there's one every block close to residential areas. Maybe Tarrytown Road, Central Avenue. So I get it. I'm getting this complaint everywhere that we're just building up with, you know, smoke marijuana weed shops. I hear that everywhere that the people are upset. And I think Mamaroneck Avenue should be a family friendly location. We do not have families who want to walk down Mamaroneck Avenue. It's very rare you see a family walking with children. It's being avoided. That's not right. So I do agree with you, and I believe there's a way we can handle this. I have some ideas, but I will tell you this is on my agenda as well. The agenda is growing, but this is something that is very important to the residents of White Plains, and I agree. So what we'd have to do is look at the current laws, see what can be adjusted, and what's the best way to limit this. So thank you very much. Besides parking, what is my biggest issue? So uh, I'm going to say right now, if you ask me, because it was safety overall, transparency and safety, I think, go hand in hand, because a lot of the safety issues, in my mind, were either covered up due to incompetence or just plain neglect. I don't know, but we never knew about them till now until they started bringing them forward. So I think that's pretty serious, the safety issue with the garages and also the police reporting. We need to know what's going on because I'm hearing about too many attacks and I don't like it. But certainly, I would say the garages because that's going to have the biggest impact on us. This is not going to be easy. I can tell you it's not going to be easy. I'm looking at these things and it's daunting that I'm up to the challenge. I can tell you that because I know how this has to be done and I understand. Um, I understand this. You know, that's why I recognize the problem. So it's going to be a daunting task, but we'll solve it. But the infrastructure definitely has to be repaired. We can't have people pulling into unsafe garages. Vinny, thank you for acknowledging the DPW worker. Your opponent hasn't. Well, thank you, Vinny. I've worked with everybody in the city. Obviously there's new people here since I've been gone. I've been gone, I went in the private sector 16 years ago, but I'm amazed at how many people are still there. And I know what it's like to work in the trenches. I absolutely do. So I know the great work that most of the people do. So thank you, Vinny. Ellen, we need people like you in politics. Thank you so much, Ellen. And I promise I will do everything to live up to everyone's expectations. Thank you. Mama Zerk, would you review and update the committees list? Several listed on the city's webpage have apparently not met in years. Oh, yeah, absolutely. A lot of things are going to be reviewed. I've been thinking about the committees list quite a bit, so I will certainly um, review that list. I will need public interaction. I can't claim that I'm going to be able to solve this on my own, even with just our city leaders and commissioners. We have experts in so many fields who live in White Plains. I am going to be tapping the public to give their input, to give me ideas for better solutions. I have an idea on many things and I understand how the departments work, but we have to talk to the people. And certainly I will want to I may want to set up new committees. And also I want the committees that we have to be filled with the experts in their field. So I will absolutely do that and make sure they meet as well. Thank you. So Tom writes, "Hi Lenny, how are you? I'm doing great. Upset today because of the garage. I knew it was going to happen and I was just waiting for it. And you think I'd feel good about being redeemed, but it is so upsetting. It truly is. I'm sorry, everyone, if I appear tense. What am I doing for Halloween? Not sure yet, but I will be in costume. And I'm not going to tell you what the costume is. I hope everybody likes it. My granddaughter actually saw the costume and she was a little frightened of it. And I felt bad because she picked out the costume, but I don't think she knew how large the costume was going to be. So I felt very bad because I dressed up for her in the costume she wanted. And I hope everybody appreciates it when they see it. Maybe we'll do a live session. What do you think? Can we do a live session on Halloween, me in the costume?
We'll find a time.
We'll figure it out. Thank you. Marissa. So Marissa writes, born and raised in White Plains, working in White Plains, but unable to afford the rent, which has gone up considerably with the explosion of luxury buildings past few years. What can the city do to help those who love and work in White Plains and move back? I agree. I mean, if you look at my very first palm card, I said that White Plains is unaffordable and just becoming worse. So a lot of people talk about affordability. I said it from day one in my campaign. We have to do a lot more. And I'm not saying I can snap my fingers and that, sorry, fire trucks are going by. So I can't say that I'm going to snap my fingers and everything's going to be affordable. But what should be happening is we should look at every way to work with the developer to also include owner occupied units. With what the rents are here, that would be a mortgage. But when you pay rent, the money is gone. If you pay the same amount of money and it is a mortgage, you could actually pay a little more because the mortgage is tax deductible. It benefits you, and a portion of that, you're paying interest, but a portion of that is going into equity. You build equity so you can start your life. At the end of so many years, all of a sudden you have a down payment for a house if you sell that place. And if it appreciates in value, all the better. So that's really what we want. We want a way for people to afford to live here, on even the rental side, but also to build equity. And right now, White Plains just doesn't have that. We're building high-rise luxury, and even with the affordability formulas getting better in White Plains, still not enough. It's absolutely not enough, and we need more owner-occupied, and we need real incentives for municipal employees to be able to live where they work. So, thank you for that. What are my thoughts on public transportation? Well, I've taken public transportation quite a bit. Obviously, I had an office in Manhattan. I had a couple of different offices I had to report to. So I was in Manhattan quite a bit. Took the train, took the subways all over New York City. And public transportation is important, especially for a city like ours, right? Obviously, being close to Manhattan. Um, we have the Beeline buses, but that's not under our control. I think that we should work with them to make sure that those are on routes that service our city. That's very important. So I agree with public transportation, but I think it has to be maintained safe and clean. So unfortunately, much of that doesn't fall under my purview. But we spoke about when I worked, I'm going as far back as Del Vecchio. When I worked for Mayor Del Vecchio, it came up when I worked for Mayor Schulman, and it came up resurrected when I worked for Mayor Delfino, is having a shuttle or a trolley down Mamaroneck Avenue and visiting the Westchester, that was under Delfino, and visiting the city center and running to the train station, have it make stops along the way. And we spoke about that at length. I know they did a quick trial of that at one time, that was under Delfino. I remember the trial. Battle Hill has done a trial, but it was done by two individuals in Battle Hill that championed it. There was two people who lived there that championed a shuttle from Battle Hill to downtown to certain places. Um, I heard it was pretty successful, except that we'd have to figure out how that all gets paid for. So I agree with it, but we have to look at it more closely. Andrew, do you think there is a need to make the building department more friendly to residents, and how may you address? I have seen the building department slow down projects for residents and small business owners. Yeah, lately I've been getting that complaint. I will obviously have to look into that. Um, so I worked in the building department, and I trained people, new inspectors in the building department way back. Unfortunately, those people aren't here anymore. Um, at the time, we didn't look to find people. I understand a lot of things have changed. What we did is if we got a complaint or there was a permit, they paid their permit. We worked all hours to get those things done. If there was a complaint, I went out there. If I saw the complaint, we issued a violation notice saying if you get this done promptly, you don't go to court, nothing. Because the commissioner at the time, fabulous commissioner, was very concerned that all the employees in the building department knew we were a service bureau. We were there to help the citizens and keep things safe. That was our priority. He spoke about it often. So we were not looking to find people. Obviously, if they did not comply and someone was going to get hurt, enforcement was strong. But most of the time, you never got to that point. And you could look through the files, you could file foils, and you could look at all this. We only went to that end if the person refused to comply and there was a safety issue at hand. So I think there has to be more to train the um, people, and I'm not criticizing them. I don't know them, and I haven't experienced it as of late, but we'd have to look into it. But we have to make sure that all our public officials know that they work for the residents of White Plains. That's the way I always took my job, that I worked for the residents of White Plains. And anybody who I trained would be able to tell you that was my paramount concern, that people knew that. So Thank you. Why does City Hall continue such massive cover-up operations? This is from Aiden. Quite frankly, I don't know. I think that, my attitude has always been in life, why do you cover something up? Why would you do this? Because if you're transparent and you're not doing anything wrong, why would you even think of covering it up? And all it does is create distrust. The public right now, I can tell you when I walk around, they're very upset. If you go to my website and watch the videos, I did one as, hey, you're walking down the street, when did this building pop up? I didn't make this stuff up. I walked around the city and spoke to people from every neighborhood and compiled what their concerns were. And it just so happens, I related to it because they were the same concerns I had. The reason why I walked around each neighborhood is to see if they had different concerns. And I learned some of them. But for the most part, everybody has the same concerns here, all the neighborhoods. They don't know what's going on. And that's a shame. So definitely an issue. I think that's why when people have asked me questions, what's the most important thing on my platform? Safety, parking, infrastructure, which ties to safety, but I'm talking about safety, more criminal acts. You can go so many different areas, the budget, I can go on and on. What's the most important? Well, really transparency. You can't get to the heart of those other issues if there's transparency. So that's very important to me. Lenny, this is from Cleveland. Do you think the 67 meme is funny?
It's 667. So just go like 6-7 and then just do this right at just like 6-7. Come on 6-7.
6-7.
There you go.
6-7.
That's what we want to see from the next mayor of White Plains.
Okay. I must be getting old. I've been reminded of that. Louise, what would your top 2 issues would you address on day 1? Top 2 issues. I would convene a group. I'd sit down with the department heads who are responsible, but I also want the brightest minds, and I'd want some volunteers in this, to immediately start looking at all our infrastructure. I do not want a catastrophe here. My heart was beating today when they said that they condemned the garage. I'm like, oh, thank God. Like, what are we waiting for? So that is right off the bat. Something has to be done. And the second thing would be safety. I want to know about every incident that we have going on around the city. I do not want people to feel unsafe while they're walking to the city center. At the train station today, people were telling me about people getting accosted there. I've heard about it at the city center. I've heard about it over by the fountains. I've heard about it outside the city center. And then we had, when I found out about one break-in, home invasion in a suburban area of White Plains. Once I started talking about that, 2 other people came to me and said it happened to them. I want to find out about that. So on day 1, I would say those issues are number 1. They'll be at the top of my list. Nina Marie, just want to express gratitude for a real and genuine candidate I see in Lenny. I hope the city can wake up and see how much he cares and want to see White Plains succeed. Thank you so much, Nina Marie. It really means a lot to me, and this is what is driving me, because you yourself obviously care so much about the city, and everybody who's joining this, I can tell, cares. So thank you so much in joining me in this. This is wonderful. Theo, is there a way to see where White Plains parking ticket money goes to or what it has contributed to? There is a way, and that's going to be, the books will be exposed to me. So certainly we're going to review all that because the White Plains ticket money should be going to keep the parking structures in shape. And I don't know how it has been. When you have garages being condemned and you see what's going on in the library garage, the Hamilton Main garage, and others, where is it going? So that will all be exposed. Absolutely. I don't know how they'll hide it. And that's why it's important I get in. Absolutely is. Because if I don't go get in, I doubt any of that will be exposed. That's my feeling. So thank you so much. Acevedo, what can be done with the hour to 3 hour parking all over White Plains? That's one thing I brought up early on in the campaign. It was on my first palm card because I myself get very upset with parking. And too many people said, including my family, why go down to White Plains? Parking's miserable. How do our businesses succeed when everybody feels that way? We have to attract people in, not push them away. And at the one of the forums, I think it was the League of Women Voters, my opponent, when asked about the small shops and retail, he said, well, we have Amazon now. Other municipalities and communities have shops and restaurants and everything that are thriving. People love to go out. You see the streets crowded now. This is long after COVID. People are going out and they love to shop. But we're not attracting them here. So yes, Amazon took a bite into everything. But that means we have to make it more attractive, not less. And we have not been doing a good job of that. So our parking, we have to review our overall parking policies in White Plains and make sure it's fair and we attract people. We want this to be friendly to visitors. And again, I'm not complaining about our parking people. I'm complaining about the policies that have been pushed down through our mayor and council. This is all rests with them. I talk to the individual employees. I know they want to do their job. I know they want a friendly city. So it's up to us to lead them that way and have their backs. Patty, as mayor, would you look into making the city website more user-friendly? Absolutely. And this does not need communications director. I know that's what my opponent wants, to pay another salary. We already pay a consultant to do this work. And websites, we should have someone who knows it in the city. And if we need a consultant, we could see. But this is not something that requires massive changes. We need it more user-friendly. We need to keep the information up to date. I go on there and I'm looking for various things on the website, that even laws that were passed, that was passed, none of that's there. So I agree with you. We need that better, but we don't need to hire more people for that purpose. We just have to do the job, and we will. Phil. Hi, Lenny. Starbucks and the water fountain seem so out of place for a city. How can this be restored and remove all the drug odors from the area? A lot of complaints about that area. I know the fountains are in pretty bad shape, and to have them restored to their old glory is going to cost a fortune. We know that. They haven't been dancing. You can just see. I recognize this because I remember when things had to be repaired in the past. Not much. It's hard to hide these things from me since I've worked there. So I know exactly what's going on. That whole area needs to be spruced up. I don't like that when I was there, I went there on a Saturday morning and it was just horrendous. The drug odors were terrible. The fountains were not great. I didn't see anybody at the Starbucks, and I'm sure it probably gets busy at other times, but it was just very bad. That's one. I'm not going to say that's going to be a day one thing, but it is something that'll be looked at. And I think a lot of things it's going to be delegating. You know, I've been a leader of large groups of people, so this will be delegated. And if that is something we can fit in initially, we will. Can't guarantee it because we have such many other problems. The drug odors, though, I do want to figure out something with that. I don't like the fact that people won't walk down the block with their children because people are smoking marijuana all across Mamaroneck Avenue and nothing's being done. Something has to be done about that because people should feel comfortable with walking with their children on Mamaroneck Avenue. It's as simple as that. Thank you for that question. Nina Marie, what do you think we can do to get more of our younger generation out there to vote and understand the importance of what you stand for and the changes we need and want to see? That's an excellent question. I can tell you, I brought this up the other night. I'm going to bring it up again because I got to give them another shout out. They're going to get mad at me. But the two people that are working on my campaign are from the Youth Bureau. I spoke to the Youth Bureau recently. I've spoken to students elsewhere. Um, I have to tell you, I was very, very impressed at the next generation coming up because they were interested. The questions they asked me were phenomenal. I was so proud of them listening to their questions. It meant that they really studied and wanted to do it. I just think that at some point, and I don't know if COVID made it worse, I don't know what it is, but something happened where people just became extremely apathetic, especially the young people. I know that they were traumatized. We were all traumatized, but I think a certain age group got especially traumatized. They're disenchanted. They don't see public officials doing what they're supposed to do. And what they have to feel like is that they can even jump in the mix and try to run for office. That's what we need. And more people to do that. And they can be differing views. Our council meetings used to go on till the middle of the night because we had mixed parties. They went on, and our council people actually worked because they were battling back and forth. But afterwards, they were friends. You need differing views. We have to let the young people know that that's what government's about. If you don't argue your point respectfully, you're never going to get to a good solution. So I love that question. I think we have to do more reach out to the younger generation and all volunteer to talk to them. I love mentoring young people, done it my whole life. My whole life, that's been the most rewarding part of every job I've had is training and mentoring. So thank you. Mama Zerk, how would you continue this momentum your campaign has, and so many support if unsuccessful? So we're pushing to the last second to win, but we can only win with everyone's help. We need everybody who's on this to call 10 friends and tell them to call 10 friends. It's all that has to happen. If everybody on this call did that, this is not an issue. And they all have to vote. We have to make sure they did. We have to harass them. That's the only way because people are apathetic. We need to harass them. We need as many volunteers as we can get over the next few days. We need people to make phone calls, reach out to family and friends and say, hey, I'll go to the polls with you. That's the only way we get this done. And to keep the momentum and the support if unsuccessful? Well, I'm going to be around. I don't know exactly. I'm not committing to anything in that event, but I will certainly be talking to all of you and want everybody's input on that. So thank you very much. Phil, I communicate on the train and the station that the MTA poured approximately $64 million into is already falling apart. Yeah, I see that. And I don't even know why things cost so much when it falls apart that quickly. Who did the inspections as they built it? There's a lot. There's a lot that's going on. So it is serious. It is very serious. You would think you spend that kind of money, you're getting something gorgeous. And things look great initially. But I've been there. I remember when they were building it, had to go downtown quite a bit as they were doing that. I had major projects down there that I was working on over at Grand Central. I had a project there, a massive project. So I had to go in day and night to Manhattan. And I saw them working. I said, wow, this is going to be really beautiful. And then you go back and it doesn't take long and it's falling apart. Again, lack of maintenance also. Very often a project will come up. This is where I have a problem. You'll see people, we've done this in the city. I see it now. Oh, we got a grant for something. Okay, who's going to maintain that? We get the grant, we build it. We're still spending taxpayer money. It may not all be local taxpayer, it's spread out. Still taxpayer money. Everybody's happy, and then there's no plan for maintenance. When I worked for the city, when I presented a project to the budget department, ultimately to the mayor and common council, I used to have to do a meeting that meeting was available on cable and the news media was there. They were public meetings when I presented my budget. And I did that every year. And when I presented it, if I was presenting a project, I had to say what the offset was going to be. I'm replacing this, so I no longer need that. That maintenance is going to disappear, but ongoing maintenance is going to be this. And here's how we can make it work into my budget cap. That's what you had to do. You had to tell the people, not only the mayor and council, the people, on how you plan on maintaining that project on day 2. I wonder how well we're doing that. And that goes right along with that. Next, Anna. Lenny, I'm downtown all the time. As mayor, will you ensure that it is safe to park in the structures as well as walk around the streets? Absolutely, that's critical. That's critical. Nobody's going to come downtown. I hear people saying they won't park in our garages. With so little street parking, how are we going to get anybody in our, to go to anything in White Plains? This is very, very serious and was taken so lightly early on. Unless we had that partial collapse, I don't know if they would have listened to me. I was ringing the alarm bell so loudly and I was ridiculed. So, I just, through the grace of God, nobody got killed there or injured, but that was pretty serious. And I think they couldn't ignore it anymore because after that, I rang the alarm bell even louder. We put so much out on social media. Like, what are they going to wait for? So that's imperative. And what we'll do is we'll make sure we have all those inspections. We'll have a group of the smartest people reviewing them. We will make sure that everything is inspected. Not only the law is followed, but anything we have to do above and beyond that to make sure that people are safe. And I do want more community policing, police walking the beat, bicycle patrols, motorcycle police, and I'd love to bring back the mounted police as well. It was a great program White Plains had. And with that, it will be safe. We take care of our garages. We have police patrols. We make sure these horror stories I'm hearing about do not happen again. Cass, Lenny, excellent job, sir. Is there any discussion on the charter? A solid person like you being mayor under a new charter would give you much needed power. We haven't had any discussion on that. Um, there should be. And I would actually, I'd even love to speak to you further on that. So um, if I can get your contact, I'd love to chat with you further on that one. I don't have enough information on what I'd like to do. So thank you. So this is, I don't know if I should say the whole name. Mel, I'll say. Who do you view as your political mentors? Hmm. So I worked for three different mayors, and I could tell you they all had different styles. I was a huge fan, I mean, still am, obviously, but of Mayor Del Vecchio. So when I started, I worked under him, and I absolutely loved the way he governed the city, as he was very, very tough. But I sat in meetings with him where he argued with the other side of the aisle and then would come to an agreement. And that's when the meetings would go very, very late. And then I worked with Mayor Schulman, and that was a completely different style. But Mayor Schulman didn't care that I worked with Mayor Del Vecchio. We got along fantastic, and I had meetings in his office at least once a week. They wanted to know how I felt about everything, and I really applauded them for bringing me into that. That they felt my input was very critical. And I can name all the people that we used to meet with there, so I worked with him. And then I worked with Mayor Delfino, and I felt, very privileged that again I was a confidant in that administration. So I was at the staff meetings, every staff meeting. I was called into his office constantly, and he would come down to my office, and so would George Gretzis to speak to me about issues, not, and they weren't all related to IT. They were related to issues around the city, and in fact, for building issues. Even the law department used to bring me in to be expert witness on building issues. So I was involved in everything, and I worked with these people, and they were all great mentors. Marissa, is the city able to have resident overnight parking permits? Any thoughts on overnight parking? West Harrison now has parking permits, possibly due to White Plains residents parking in Harrison and walking to their home. This has come up quite a bit. A lot of people have requested that. There are actually people in White Plains who have no driveway, and they have nowhere to park, and they have a home. So it's a serious issue. And I don't like it when, for years, they were told that, don't worry, we're not going to ticket you. We know your plight. And then all of a sudden they got a ticket. Not all the time, but you can't have a law in place and have a condition where it will look the other way because it doesn't work for you. The law should take everything into consideration. So we're not violating the law in doing that. But yes, it is something I want to look at because so many people have requested it. I want to find out why it was eliminated back in the day. And what I had heard is White Plains didn't allow it for one, snow plowing, leaf removal. And then the third thing was safety, that a police officer can look down the street and make sure nobody's hiding between cars. So I want to see what the reality of all that is. So I can tell you, I don't back something on a knee jerk reaction. What I do is I like to get all the data, crunch through it, work with experts in the field, and then we can see which way we want to move forward with the consensus of the people. Vinny, would you consider trying to find the funding to fund a new youth bureau bigger and better with basketball courts, weight room, possibly boxing in the city? Yes, I would. What I really would, and also the senior center. That's horrific. Now I know my opponent is talking about an intergenerational center which was actually conceived by Mayor Roach years ago, and now he's pushing that forward. It didn't happen under Mayor Roach. I don't think it's going to come. It's going to happen in any. Uh, it's not going to be time for the youth that are there now. That's for sure. So, what I think is we need to do something more immediate, and it doesn't have to be any major elaborate plan. In fact, I also want to talk to the school district. You know, these buildings belong to the public, all of them. They might not be under the city of White Plains domain. They're under the school district's domain or the Board of Ed. But we have to come to some agreement where we have the facilities available at all times for our youth. And there's many things we could do. It's just going to require open discussion. Like I said the other day, we pay for all their communications between the schools. That is the city of White Plains. We've never been reimbursed. In fact, there's been money that's gone to other people on this and that entire project, which I'm upset about. But seriously, we have to do more, and I think we can. I've even thought about getting something built as a public-private partnership. So I appreciate that. Patty, as mayor, would you continue having these informative live sessions? Talk with the mayor. We have no media or newspaper for White Plains. Yes. We've been talking about it amongst ourselves here that this should continue. I won't be doing them every night, however. So what we would do is set up a schedule because I think this is a good way to find out what's going on, at least to push it out to the public. And people could send in their questions in advance and we could try to answer as many as we can in advance. And then the key ones that many of the residents are on, we can put them live and discuss everything. I think this is critical. This is the new way. It truly is. And I would absolutely do it. Mama Zerk, is it true some admin staff gets benefits for life? What is the compensation package? Should be public. So I don't know all the compensation packages, and I believe the council does. They get benefits for life for the part-time job. That's also what really burns me, is that they have a legislative aid now to answer emails, and they say to write up legislation. Well, we have a law department for that, and if it's something that's going to be adopted, the law department should be part and parcel of that. Why do we need a legislative aid? I fear it's just to answer council emails and phone calls and things like that. We've never needed anything like that. So yet they get compensation, they get benefits for life, they get a decent salary for a part-time employee. In fact, their salary is close to some of our full-time employees. So, but I'm really not sure if they get benefits for life. I have to look into that. I don't know how that works out I just wanna find that out first. So I'm gonna retract that because I wanna be sure if they get benefits for life before I put that out there. But they do get paid a lot. So for a part-time job. So we should have that all public. In fact, I think it is public. We may have to foil it. We may have to get that, but it definitely should be. Phil, hi Lenny. Would consider returning Mamaroneck Avenue back to the old days in the 50s into a single lane with angled parking so the small mom and pop stores have a fighting chance. Well, actually, I like that a better idea than some of the other ideas I've heard. Like one of the ideas I've heard was to put curbing in, to put bike lanes, and make it single lane in each side, but have curbing there for bikes, which that's going to kill the parking even worse. So I don't like that at all. I like this idea better. I'd have to see a study on it to see what would be the best way to do it and why we got away from it. Because if we put in the bike lanes and slow down traffic and get no benefit from it, that doesn't make sense. Mama Zerk, well, Said legislative aide and 2 council members never answered my email. Well said. Okay, I got it. So the legislative aide, yes. So we have a legislative aide and we have 2 council members and they still didn't answer your emails. So there you go. So what are we paying for? That's what I want to know. So thank you very much for all those questions. It's about time to wrap up. So we're going to be announcing another one of these. I don't know what day. Things are really, really busy. We might just be doing some live events periodically because things are happening around White Plains fast and furious, and we want to keep everybody informed. I will say this, please all go to my website, lennyformayor.com. Go to Facebook, Instagram, X, and YouTube. You can see everything we've done. I want to know what's going on, so reach out to the campaign at team@lennyformayor.com. Also, we need volunteers now. I mentioned it earlier. Tell all your friends, please. We need them to reach out. Contact us at team, TEAM, at lennyformayor, FOR.com, where they can reach out to us and we will see what is best for them, their time frame, and what they want to do. We need to get this message out. As I said, we're at an inflection point and this has to happen. And we need everybody to go vote. We have to stop the apathy. Please get your friends, family, neighbors to vote. Please, we need to do this. Thank you all so much. Have a wonderful evening. Thank you.